we're live. Welcome, everyone who will watch, whether you're watching live or you are watching the replay. Um, I am going to be discussing something today with Rock, my guest, or I guess you could say co-host since you're always on. Um, Something that I've wanted to address for a really long time. I used to be a little more centered, and then after getting on TikTok, I think that's when I really became. I would consider myself like red pill, but then the more I see the swing of the pendulum, which seems to always happen, the polarization, the extreme that things uh, go towards, the more I'm leaning back towards the center. The more data I look up is quite concerning. But this is something I've wanted to address. And um, Rock, what's your general thoughts on the whole like red pill versus feminist?
Well, well, given how long feminism has been around, right? It slowly ate into society, as you and I have spoken many times before. Um, but I would say red pill being fairly like recent, right? This is what goes, against the grain with the norm, which is feminism, and because feminism has just become a basic, and it's just like so instilled in us that we don't even realize it with a lot of things. We want to give women education and rights and whatever else. And, some of it, like, I don't mind women having bank accounts or whatever, stuff like that. I mean, you've spoken about biblical patriarchy, but, you know, um, but when it comes to red pill specifically, right? I think it basically said, "Oh, why are we the bad guys? Why are we?" And we said, "Fuck that." I can swear on here. We're monetized, or
No, I'm not monetized, but I still prefer to keep it as
okay. Apologize. All right, restart the live. I'm just kidding.
no, it's fine.
Okay.
I mean, whenever I play the games, I can't help it. I cuss when I'm scared.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah. So I just looked it up to see like when the whole red pill manosphere thing popped up because I mean honestly the at its core it's just traditional values. I think that there are certain people who have taken things to an extreme as a response to feminism. But that pushback from what I just looked up was actually it began in the 70s, even though I was not aware of it. Apparently it was going
Well,
on.
wait. Can I just not to derail you, but when it comes to you mentioned red pill being conspiracy theories.
Yeah, so how I understood red pill was like from the Matrix, like you take the red pill or you take the blue pill and you go back to your normal life. And I feel like the whole red pill like manosphere kind of stole the red pill um or that was like coined um or that was being used for like people who were awake to the corruption in society. And yeah, it did partially have to do with feminism. But it wasn't all about feminism. It was also about, certain things that I cannot talk on here, the little hats, the um,
Right, right.
radios, and
Oh, JFK.
yeah, I mean, so many different conspiracies um, out there, and it's like, okay, red pill was the people who decided to not just listen to what the media was feeding to them.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I think that the term red pill was kind of hijacked by the whole I like to call it manosphere. I think that's actually a more fitting name to it. Um, because it makes sense because it's more like male
Men.
dominated, yeah, pro male. And
Okay, because the only time I'd heard of manosphere was like a year ago, so like that specific term, like I knew what it was, but
yeah, so the idea of it, from what I just looked up, it started in the 70s. It was like pushback to feminism, but feminism had, so this is part of what we're going to be getting into, is how a lot of people blame women for the whole feminist agenda, but the large majority of women did not want to support women's suffrage, but a very wealthy businessman, the Rockefeller Foundation, Rockefeller, what's his first name? I gotta look it up again.
I'm not sure what his first name is. I don't have a textbook in front of me.
Anyways, so the Rockefeller Foundation essentially spearheaded and funded the feminist movement, along with other very wealthy businessmen, because they were like, ooh, cheap labor. And then they turned around and essentially restructured the schools. And I think you've heard me talk about how schools are, they're focused on benefiting women. It does not benefit boys in any way. If anything, it emasculates them. Because boys from ages 4 to 7 get a testosterone boost. It's harder for them to just sit down and be quiet. So they're essentially constantly being compared to little girls in the classroom setting and told that they're bad and that the girls are good. So they're taught from a very young age, before they can even defend themselves, that they are inferior to women by adult women. And it actually suppresses their ability to reach their full potential of their testosterone levels. And there are studies, and I'll link all of these studies in the description. I'll have to edit it and pull everything out. I have it on my chat GBT. I go through and it's like my personal assistant. I love chat GBT. But there are studies that show that adult men who act more feminine, that their T levels drop, and women who act more masculine, or they're in more masculine roles, that their testosterone levels increase. So that's what happens to adults. And when you're talking about developing children and you're suppressing the natural action of little boys to express themselves, and they're developing their masculinity and being rambunctious, that's why that term was let boys be boys. When you suppress that, that affects them long term, on top of atrazine and a whole bunch of other things that they spray on foods, they put in water. Speaking of which, I'm so thirsty. But all of these things have affected men. And then the removal of competition once they introduced the participation award. So like the one place where men could shine in the education system, that was stripped of them too. So the entire education system is built around supporting women and oppressing men. And so this is why we see, along with all the stuff that they are putting in our food and drink, that's why you see a lot of men with really low T levels. They are forced into submission and their body responds. And I think, actually, I have to look it up. I know there is a book about this, and it has to do with doing this to your slaves. I don't know if you can say that on YouTube or not, but they would do that to their slaves in order to keep them more docile so that they wouldn't fight back. It's really sad what's happened to society. And I think people are just starting to wake up. They know something's not right because everyone is struggling. And they want someone to blame, so they blame each other. But really, this has been ongoing indoctrination and social engineering by the elites for I mean, so many decades. But I want to play this little clip real quick. You know, I'm long winded.
Oh,
I apologize.
I was just gonna say, this is proof that since they're putting stuff in our food and drink, the only safe thing, whiskey.
Amen. I mean, that's what I've been saying.
Exactly. All these kids who are being emasculated in schools, just give them whiskey. Don't let them drink it. Just give it to
Cigar.
them.
No, 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 not kids. Adults, yes, we can have whiskey.
I said don't let them drink it. I said just give it to them. They can bring
No,
it. They give it to the teacher.
I'm gonna mute you.
Okay.
Me and the day, walking side by side.
My little AI clip. I just thought I'd show. I am gonna go run. I should have gotten water first. Please entertain nicely, Rock. While I go. Okay.
Well, I was just gonna say one thing.
Hmm.
You see how Pearl is on the red pill?
I know. I can't stand that it made her look like
Well,
completely
well,
different.
well, no. I'm just if you see who's behind her, it's very fitting.
Who's behind her? There's no one behind her.
Or
She.
or in front of her.
Oh, Andrew Tate. Why?
Maybe go get the water.
Okay, I'll go get the water.
All right.
Oh, give me.
I joke and I kid. Oh, you're not muted. So, how's everybody doing tonight? If anyone has a movie that they want to relate to feminism that they think that Athena should watch, go ahead and type it in the comments. Not like I can actually read the comments, but we'll see them at the end, I'm sure. Anyway, so red pill versus feminism. As I was saying before, like from what I saw, we as a society, right? We did things, well for 2000 years, and then we want to introduce feminism and then just have what an uproar because like it's not even just about the equal rights. It's them wanting more rights. They want responsibility. They want privilege without responsibility, and that's just not realistic. Um, you'll see this on the whatever. They always talk about repealing the 19th Amendment and such. You know, I mean, men can be drafted. Like, we're not just gonna. And that's not to say that women should go and fight in a war, right? Like, but, they should be, serve or do what they can do physically, whether that's being a nurse or just like, um, matter of fact, even when it comes to the president of the United States, I'm not going to say the rest of Congress, but like if you are going to be the commander in chief, the leader, doesn't it make sense for you to have served or at least have some type of understanding of the military? I'm not even saying like you have to go overseas and do all that. Although, who knows? It could be beneficial.
I'm back.
But
Did you burn the place down?
yeah, read
Oh,
inst. But yeah, as I was saying, it could be beneficial, but like I said, I'm not going to make the argument for, Congress necessarily serving in the military, but when it comes to the president, I think they should.
Yeah, I think that would actually be super beneficial. I do agree with you on that one. Um,
Well, like I said, well, I started this conversation saying, women, who it's not even just about the equal rights, right? It's about them wanting the privilege without the responsibility. They want more rights than what
yeah.
men even have, and it's just ridiculous. So, like let's take the 19th Amendment, like seen on the whatever, they talk about repealing it. I'm not even
Yeah,
going to
a
make
lot
the
of people
whole.
talk about that though.
Huh?
A lot of essentially any anti-feminist is going to say that they want
The
to
19th
do,
Amendment repealed.
yeah. And I would say that I agree because I think that, and I actually, whenever I did go on the whatever podcast, I mentioned that because most of the panel was conservative women. And so they were looking at me like I, had like eyeballs on my forehead whenever I said that. And um, I told them, I was like, all of us are, more right leaning, but the majority of women vote liberal or Democrat. And so they're really voting with their emotions and not logically. And so all of them kind of like shook their head, and I was like, yeah, I know. Like, it's unfortunate. I think, and this is why I've said this in other panels, that men are kind of like the bumpers in a bowling lane, and the woman's the ball. And like, if women listen to the direction and correction of men, and not just any man, good men that bear fruits, men who follow and submit to God, because I'm not pro patriarchy in general. I'm pro biblical patriarchy, because other patriarchies, they actually take advantage of women. It's only Christianity that teaches men to have self control and discipline and to honor their wife. I mean, it goes as far as to say that if a man does not treat his wife well, that God will not listen to his prayers or bless him. So it would behoove him to actually treat his wife well. It says that women are worth more than rubies. A righteous woman is worth more than rubies. It holds women in such high regard in the Bible. Um, I don't understand why people say that Christianity is oppressive to women. If anything, it's the exact opposite. It definitely protects women. It says to be gentle with them, that we are the weaker vessel. We are easily deceived. We should be guided gently. Um, I have a hard time being gentle with other women when they're very combative, really just with anyone in general. Because if a man's combative with me, I get combative right back. I just,
What are you talking about?
don't yell at me. No,
Make
no,
me a
but
sandwich.
no, but like honestly, I really do respond to how people respond, like how people respond to me. Like if you watch the debates that I did, like they were very respectful, so I was very respectful. But if you go to TikTok live, when someone pops off and they get disrespectful, I get disrespectful right back. And I know as a Christian, I'm not supposed to do that,
This is
but I
this
am.
is proof that she's a female debater. Anytime she gets a mood, she matches them. She's like, "Oh, you want to be passive aggressive? I'm gonna be passive aggressive."
I don't think I'm really passive aggressive. I think I'm just aggressive.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I missed the passive part.
No,
But yeah, I don't remember what the original point of that was.
I. Well, okay, okay. So, when it comes to women voting, right? When
Mhm.
you said the 19th Amendment should be repealed, so does that mean women would lose the right to vote entirely, even if they wanted to sign up for service and prove themselves?
Well, I think that we should no longer lower standards for women. So if they want to serve by being a cook or, any of those things, and she can pass all the same exact tests that are expected of a man, by all means. But the thing is like women can't actually do what the men can, especially not long term. And so that's the other thing is they have these tests. Well, men run on a 24-hour hormonal cycle. This is why men can be consistent. This is why men have more longevity in their careers. And yes, I understand women have children, right? So they need to take time away from their career. But even in women who are not having children, they still have breaks in their careers, and the reason why is because they have that 4 hormonal cycles every 28 days. So there's some weeks where we're like super productive, and historically speaking, like in the Old Testament, like women had to leave for a week while they had their cycles. And that was like a time of rest for them to like recharge so they could continue, on the rest of the time being productive. But women are not as strong as men. We're not meant to be as consistent. We're not meant to do all those things. I'm not even consistent with all of this stuff because it's too hard for me. That's kind of the reason why I like it is I get to make my own schedule with like doing lives and even cleaning houses and all of that. Like I get to take breaks when I need them. And even with that, it's still overwhelming. Like if I have a 9 to 5, like, geez, like it doesn't matter where you are in that cycle, you're still expected to perform exactly the same as if you're a robot or as if you're a man, really. I would say the workforce is built to support men, and the education system is built to support women, which is crazy how it's like that, yet they're pushing like women to go through school to go into the workforce. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we know the ideal man, only works, 4 to 5 hours a week or a day, I mean, per the week. And, the woman has like, 4 jobs so she can
Oh,
support the
you're talking
family.
about that video I sent you. That
Yeah.
was so sad. This woman, okay, he was like, this is what pisses me off about like red pill men is they're like, oh, men don't even really have options because women are so delusional and this and that. And they're like, well, exceptions don't make the rule. And I was like, then how come I know so many? I don't know if Texas is just like a different culture, but I see all these videos of like this one particular guy, he does people's finances and he's talking to all these different couples. And I see a lot of lazy men working part time, and the woman is working 2, 3, 4 jobs, essentially providing. And I've seen a lot of women get taken advantage of financially by men. And I know guys are like, oh, that's the minority of women, but I'm like, why is it that I see it so often? And I'm not saying that they're necessarily wrong. I know that women tend to take advantage with divorce. I don't think they manage their funds well because the majority of women after divorce end up suffering more financially after the divorce. They're doing worse. But if you look at the amount of pay that men and women get, men tend to earn more. So it kind of makes sense that whenever she leaves the main breadwinner, even if she was working, that she would struggle more because now she's doing it all on her own with like less pay, you know? And I'm not saying like, oh, there's a wage gap. No, women, I understand women choose jobs that are just less dangerous and all of that. So that I'm not making that claim. I just want to clarify that. Any feedback?
Uh, so for that particular one, no. I think you said it all.
Okay, well, that wraps it up for today. No, I'm just kidding. I could literally talk forever.
Well, I mean, I guess this is a little off topic from that, but why don't we actually address the people who are in this image?
Oh, yeah. So there's Margaret Sanger. Um, Hold on.
Well, which one is Margaret Singer?
She's I'm pointing as if y'all can see. I'm just a girl.
See the one in the blue or the red?
The
Or is it
blue.
black? Is it black or blue? I'm describing Joe Biden's testicles.
She's the woman with the pearls.
Oh, okay. That explains.
John D. So that's Margaret Sanger. That's John D. Rockefeller. And then the other lady, hold on, I forgot her name. Let me look it up real quick. Oh, God. Shulamith Firestone? Shulamith. I've never heard that name. So she was a radical feminist in the 1970s, often cited as extreme or man-hating in critiques of feminism. She hated men. I want to look up some of her famous quotes. Let's see.
But by the way, while we're on this topic, while you're looking that up, there was a video on TikTok, actually a few of them, where a bunch of women in Paris, they're protesting by wearing pig masks and being topless.
Oh my God, I saw that. And they were doing really weird things to them. And I'm like, what? Why do women do that? Why do women say, I'm more than just my body? And then they dress up in a vagina costume, like just a giant vagina. And I'm like, what are you doing?
I guess that's the idea, to show you something that's sexy, typically in a gross light. Does that make sense?
It's just freaking goofy. And it makes them look stupid.
To an extent, yeah, but it makes sense to them. But okay, so think about it, right? All of those women, right, who are topless, wearing the pig's masks, and I think they had fake dicks hanging on them, and then
Okay.
on their stomachs.
Penises.
Is there a difference?
Wiener in the rain. Sorry.
Wait, can I not? I have to.
It sounds so aggressive.
Yeah. Okay. So when they have that Johnsons hanging from their tweezer legs.
Here.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you that that's what growing up, that's what my mom told me it was called? And so whenever I went to school, people were talking about things. I was like, a man's Peter Weeder. I got made fun of so much. That was so traumatizing.
Why?
Because Peter Weeder sounds so weird. Why would you call it that? Who does that to their child? I'm like, Mom, why did you do that to me? Cruel. Anyways, so Firestone was a radical feminist writer from the late 1960s to 1970s. She's most known for her book, The Dialect of Sex, The Case for Feminist Revolution. Making me gag just reading the title, which is one of the foundational text of radical feminism. Anyways, let's see. She helped organize the 1968 Miss America protest, of course. Co-founded the Red Stocking, a radical feminist group in New York in 1969. Co-founded New York Radical Women, one of the early radical feminist groups of the second wave. We already talked about what she wrote. I'm trying to look at some of her quotes. The biological family is the source of women's oppression. What? She's insane. The household was probably the safest place for women. Oh my God.
Yeah,
The
thank you.
heart of women's oppression is her childbearing and child rearing roles. See, this is what I was talking about. They demonize women who stay at home to raise their children. So and the reason why they did this, because Rockefeller, the man on the left, John D. Rockefeller, he was the one who spearheaded and funded feminism. And he was also the one that changed the education system so that they could start indoctrinating young children who were the most vulnerable. If they could lure women outside of the homes, then they could teach the kids whatever they wanted. Kids are spending more time with teachers than they are with their own parents. And when they changed the entire education system, and women like Firestone are saying that the childbearing and rearing roles is your source of oppression, then children are just like thrown to the wolves. Literally, that's what happened. And they did it over time. It's like layers of poison, and you have to mix a little truth in with that poison, because they did address things like domestic violence and those sorts of things, and that was the truth. And that's like that bleeding heart. You're like, oh, I don't want women to be hurt. And I don't think most people do. Most people are against that type of treatment of women. So they would tug at people's heartstrings to make them, I guess, like fall for their other agendas. And that's that little bit of truth mixed in with the poison to like get you to make it sweet. So you take the poison and it like builds up in your body over time. Each generation, it was like more and more radical. It kept like more and more poison. And like the more you're poisoned, the more it builds up in your system. And now it's just gotten to the point where it's like, I don't even recognize people on the left. It used to be when I was growing up, I used to do a lot of debates, and I was friends with a lot of my classmates who were Democrats, and I would debate them, and it was okay. Like we could agree to disagree, and they'd be like, "Wow, you did a really good job on that debate." Not anymore. Not anymore. They like threaten to unalive you. Like it's absolutely insane the way these people act.
Oh, by the way, is YouTube the appropriate place to bring up religion and stuff, or is that not? For one, does that not suit this debate? And also, well, not debate, discussion.
Oh, you can always bring up religion. Yeah, I wouldn't be on a platform where I couldn't bring up religion. I
No,
just
no, no. I was just gonna bring up like your views on things, and
okay. Yeah, what did you want to address?
okay, so you brought up domestic violence, right?
Yeah.
Okay, a mutual friend of ours, right,
Hmm.
sent me a video of Islam.
Mm.
So is that appropriate
You
for
know
this?
how I feel about that.
Well, yeah, I know, but like we've talked about, you believe in the whole like correction, discipline.
Yeah, I absolutely think that men can discipline their wives. Discipline doesn't have to be physical. I've said this so many times. If men were to try to spank women, that would not work. It
Well, then
wouldn't
the
work.
next one,
Women would enjoy that way too much. It would
and
be
that,
reinforcing bad behavior. And I've said
well,
this time and time again. The best way to discipline a woman in modern society is to remove social media.
right. But the next one I was gonna bring up was stoning of adulterers.
I don't know. So I'll be careful with that one on YouTube. Yeah, that's Old Testament. That's um, the flesh side of me wants to bring that back because infidelity is something that I absolutely despise in every way. I do not believe that there is an excuse for infidelity. I like the way the Orthodox Church handles everything when it comes to marriages, because it's not that you can't get a divorce. It's that there's a lot of steps in order to get to that point. And you have to meet with the priest, and there are allowances when there is like habitual transgressions that are not being changed. So, of course, the church would never condone something like that. That's my flesh that wants to condone that, because I'm like, I can't stand cheaters. Like, I cannot stand cheaters. I think it's the most disgusting thing ever. If you want to have an open relationship, yes, I think that's degenerate behavior, but at least you're not lying to the other person. I don't like liars, thieves, or cheaters. Those are three things. Like, there is no excuse whether you're a man or a woman. And I said this in one of my videos, that if you have to lie in order to gain access to a woman,
you're a predator.
Yes. So if you're a man and you have to lie to gain access to a woman, you're a predator. And that includes cheating on her and keeping it a secret. If you're a woman and you have to lie in order to gain access to a man's resources, you're a predator. Liars are predators. I cannot stand liars. Like, there's a difference between having a boundary, and I'm not talking about within relationships, but like online, people will ask certain questions and I'm just like, that's private. I'm allowed to have personal and private things that I don't share around to everyone. I don't give people my address. You know what I mean? So there's nothing wrong with having like personal boundaries, saying, hey, you know, I'm not going to answer this question. This is personal. But to sit there and lie is not okay. And I think a lot of influencers do this. They lie about a lot of things. And this is why, because I think a lot of people, because of the things that I talk about, they're like, oh, so were you a virgin? And they're like, you're not traditional. It's like, well, I didn't really say I was traditional. I actually agree with Pearl on this one, that there really aren't traditional women anymore, or traditional men. We've fallen so far away from traditionalism that it just isn't there. You could say you fall somewhere like close to tradition, like you can have some traditional values, but most people are not traditional anymore. And so I started to make that clear. I was like, yeah, I was not a virgin when I married.
Oh, here's a question.
And I hold on, I'm almost done. So I was like, I'm not a virgin. I was not a virgin when I married, and I made sure that people understood that I am not perfect. Just because I'm talking about the morality of things does not mean that I don't sin. I just don't make excuses for my sin. I will call my sin, because I am not going to partake in what is the third level of sin, which is like
preaching it.
Not just preaching it, it's accepting it. It's making it a part of your lifestyle and not even trying to fight the flesh. You just embrace it. It becomes a part of your life. That I won't do. I will always wrestle with the flesh, and I will always fall short, but I always will continue to wrestle with the flesh.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
And then, no, it's just... like, this is something I've struggled with, like, especially hearing that, because I'm just like, okay, these were all good ideas from the Old Testament, what I'm hearing the people of Islam preaching. Because another thing that they had said, and well, you said it yourself, you don't like thieves, right?
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned cutting the hand.
Yeah, but the Quran also says that it's okay to lie in certain situations, like if you're trying to gain trust of the enemy so that you can essentially take over. So no, their entire religion, and I know I'm going to get so much pushback from this, but the entire religion is encourages deception, and yeah, I can't support it. There's nothing about Islam that I would say I'm really a fan of.
Right,
now, I won't say that I hate all of the people. I
Right.
would say that I don't necessarily trust them because of what their religion teaches, and I don't know if they actually study it or not. But I've known quite a large amount of Muslims that were just absolutely so sweet and kind and helpful, and the women were very like meek and willing to help, and I loved seeing that. Um,
Right, but we want to see them on the right side of the fence, which is Christianity, following instead of Muslim, instead of what would be
Islam.
the Islam, instead of following Islam, them following Old Testament and like those values that I had just brought to you, right? The doing the thing to the thief, disciplining one's wife, and the stone of the adulterer.
Uh-huh.
Those were all Old Testament.
Yeah, yeah. So if you read New Testament, I just finished, I can't remember. I'm reading Hebrews tomorrow. I I've read all of these books, but I never read
Oh,
them like cover to cover. So I'm almost done with the Bible. I got distracted and
did you
whatever.
finish Revelations?
No, no, no. I'm doing Hebrews tomorrow. But if you read First and Second Timothy, it really gives you a foundation on how we're supposed to respond as Christians. We aren't supposed to respond aggressively. We aren't supposed to respond hatefully. We are supposed to respond as kindly as possible. Now, that doesn't mean that we are a doormat, because it specifically says that, if the person's a fool, to walk away. There's another scripture that says don't throw your pearls to swine. um, so it's, you can't force someone to understand logic, but you should not.
You should turn the other cheek.
No, no, no. Turning the other cheek doesn't mean what a lot of
Yeah,
Western
it's an
Christian
insult.
thinks it means. Sort of, kind of. It's not. So it's a nonviolent way of protesting, and yes, in a way, it is. It was an insult to who slapped Jesus, because he slapped him with the back of his hand, and when he turned the other cheek, like, okay, you can slap me with the palm of your hand, essentially said that we're equal, because you only slapped like people who were beneath you, like slaves or like a woman or something like that. You would only backhand someone who is beneath you. So he turned his cheek, saying, I am your equal or greater, honestly. So it was a bit of a jab at him. It was a nonviolent form of protest, which is always the first thing that we're called to do, because the goal is not to push people further from God, it's to bring them in. And just like God shows us mercy when we don't deserve it, when we show people mercy, even if that person doesn't deserve it, that could bring them to God. It's not guaranteed, but the effort in trying is what's important, because as Christians, you're ambassadors for Christ. And so people are looking to you for direction. I always tell people, listen, I am not the best Christian. If you're looking to me, like, I'll say what's moral, but like, I always say, I got hands to pray and I got hands to throw. If you ever catch these hands, you had to have done something extreme to get there. But I promise, I'm not a weak person. I I've always been a bit scrappy, and like, it takes a lot to get me to that point, but once you do, it's not fun. Period.
I understand. No, just I wish more of the Orthodox or followed how you feel.
I think they do.
Well, it's specifically the three that I had brought up. Those three things:
Three things.
the discipline, the stone, and for the stone for the adulterer, and then the thief being punished, and
Um
or What did you say on that?
So it's not that the Bible says that we can't punish. It's that when you are punishing someone, there are systems that have to be in place. You're not supposed to just take vengeance, because God understands that we're emotional creatures and we don't
Vengeance
always
is for
respond
God.
the way that we should. But if you go, that's why they had judges, and that's why our judicial system is set up the way that it is. It very much so mirrors um, biblical principles. So you go to a judge who is supposed to be non-biased, and they make the decision so that you are not acting out of emotion or anger. There were certain, so I am not like some huge biblical scholar, so I can't tell you exactly what it is. I know that there are certain circumstances where taking things into your own hand was acceptable. It's like defending someone's life, defending your life. I can't tell you all of the exact situations that it allows for that, but there were allowances for like defending yourself. Like they don't expect you to just be like, oh, turn the other cheek while the person's like unaliving you. You know what I mean? That's not what it teaches. If anything, there's this one scripture where Christ says, if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and get one. So it's not like Christians are just supposed to be these like little timid, weak, whatever. I mean, some Orthodox priests in other countries, I've seen them throw hands, and I was like, okay.
Yep.
Oh,
And they're like, I cast fireball because they all look like wizards.
what?
Do Orthodox?
No.
They do. I swear, I saw an Orthodox priest the other day, and I thought I was getting my letter to Hogwarts.
Oh my God. I
But
cannot with you. You are too much.
yep, of course he agreed to watch the Human Centipede.
No, he didn't. He did not, did he?
Um, he
You
said he
can't.
said he said if he got paid, he'd do it.
Don't do that to Nelios. No, you cannot corrupt that man. That is such a movie. No, do not. He is a monk.
So
He just buy some candles. If y'all want, I'm gonna reach out to Nelios and ask him to get his website. I'll put it in the description if y'all want to support him. He's absolutely amazing. I'll also link his TikTok. He goes live. He's a Orthodox monk. He does lives. He's actually super cool. We always like to go and hang out in his lives. It's a lot of fun. But if you're a TikToker, if you're not, I get it.
well,
But yeah,
considering
do
they're
not
watching it on
corrupt
YouTube,
Nelios. That's not allowed. Bad rock. Robert, this rock is pissing me off.
but
Oh,
no, I just um, I think we made some good points. We got a little off topic, but I
yeah.
I think to drive it home, I mean, we have been. It's almost been an hour.
Yeah, there were a few things I wanted to touch upon, because the whole reason why um, I decided to finally do this, because I've been I need to do this. I need to do
Pearl debate.
my panels. I need to review the Pearl debate. I need to review Ghosty's debate, me and Ghosty, and then the male feminist. I don't remember his name. He was very sweet though. I could tell he really loved his mother
And his wife.
and his wife. Yeah, he kept saying that. It was sweet. But I need to review all those. I just have a lot going on. I have that hoarder's home that I'm cleaning, and that's
The
a
horror
big
zone. Yeah.
rock. Stop. The
It
hoarder's
sounds
home.
like it.
And it's a big project, but I'm really excited for the content, because normally I do deep cleans and like the content's really good after deep cleans, but like in the trap house that I did, Cleaning the trap house, like that one was like really extreme results, or before and after. And so a hoarder's home, I've helped work with people doing hoarders homes, but I've never taken pictures. So I'm really excited whenever I do that to get the before and after. But the whole reason for starting this, I've been wanting to do this even like several years ago before I went on the Whatever podcast. I wanted to address red pill and feminism being the wings of the same bird. And so, even though I lean more towards red pill, um, since I'm an anti feminist, there's still some issues that I see within red pill where men run from accountability on it's very specific topics. And I don't understand why. I think it's because there's a lot of men who are slaves to their own lust. I think that's their biggest thing. So whenever I address the beauty standards, I think I'm going to do that one a whole separate one. But it was that, and then the other one was the cheating thing. So guys will say that, oh yeah, women cheat more than men, but statistically speaking, historically, it's always been men cheated more, and it fluctuated over the years. But I've looked at six decades of this data, and it's been pretty consistent that men cheated more. Now that has changed. It's almost the same now. It's very close. And I have no doubt that women will in the future be cheating more. But if you look at it historically, women have always had access to sex very easily. This has always been the case. Women have always had easy access to sex, yet they cheated less. So I think that speaks volumes to how women used to be versus how they are now, because again, it is increasing.
Changing.
And yeah, it's changing a lot, which is disturbing. But I have an issue with men who want to talk about what's going on right now without addressing all the things that happened to lead up to this. And they're like, oh, men can't cheat because men aren't even looked at or whatever. Yet the stats say otherwise. I mean, they did a really large pool of men and women and asked them. I'll link it in the description. Let me pull it up, because it was such a large amount. Hold on. This I did. No, that's paternity fraud stats. It was the loneliness epidemic is what I put it under. Loneliness epidemic.
So I know you're going to show the stats, but do you believe there's a male loneliness epidemic, or is that just bullshit?
Well, these stats say otherwise. That's what, like,
Yeah, but we all know stats are skewed, but only when we want them to be.
Yeah, and that's my problem, because guys are like, women initiate 90% of divorce. And I was like, it's 69, and it's gone up a little bit. So it's 69 to 75. And they're like, it's 80%. And I'm like, no, why are you exaggerating? That's exactly what the feminists do. I'm like, stop doing that. I don't like it.
Okay, so something I want to say on the male loneliness epidemic. So
Mm-hmm.
it sounds to me like you don't believe it, just due to these stats.
No.
Wait,
I'm not. I haven't.
you haven't come to your conclusion on it, whether it
No,
exists
I
or not?
haven't.
Okay. So let me sway you to, decide. So think about what it's like to be a young man in modern society, right? Let me walk you through, because I've seen so many TikToks, so many men talk about their stories and just bring it out, right? Especially now, like given the last 20, even 30 years, right? Um, when, uh, when it comes to men, right, they have access to pornography, they have access, and like their lust in their early like teen, like that's when they get into it. I believe the average age when they start watching that material is around 11. That is the average. Could be younger, could be a little higher, but it's around there. And when they start doing that, right, um, they, like it just makes them antisocial. I think it's a lot to do with the technology we have nowadays. Not just the corn itself, but just nobody wanting to socialize. Social media has made it worse. Um, what else? Just you know, kids not socializing with each other. Even people like
Yeah, but I think
nobody's
that goes for men and women. And so I guess my issue is they talk about this loneliness epidemic with men, but then they turn around and say, oh, women are going to be so lonely. They're going to be so lonely. And I'm like, pick a lane. Which is it?
right.
I think people in general, as you're stating, are lonely because what CVID did is it separated people for a very long time. And sorry, my dogs are howling.
Who did separated? Who?
I can't say it on YouTube. CVID.
Oh, good. Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, pick up what I'm putting down because I'm not
Well,
gonna say it.
I thought you were saying a name.
No, no.
You could have just said, 2020 events or something like that.
Okay, so um, this isn't all of it. This one says that. Okay, so this was. Let's see. It was a U.S. survey. Let me see how many people.
Can I keep talking while you're looking for that, or?
I think it's no, I already have it. It's 2 to 3,000 people. So it said that, and this was, when was this? No, go ahead and keep talking because I'm.
Okay, yeah. So it's just, the way we're marketed to. Yes, you can make it an argument for a female loneliness epidemic, but it's, it's a lot worse for men, right? And I believe the reason for that is, right, women are able to open up and talk about their emotions and talk about how they're feeling with other people. And actually, there's more of a support system there. Society is actively wanting to help women. But when men, feel frustrated, feel like they're not being heard, or even just like being emasculated, like you had brought up earlier at these public schools,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, they have really no one. So they deep dive into corn, they deep dive into OF, even just like just social media thirst traps. It doesn't have to be smexual all the time. It's not always about the smecks, even if it is smexual content. It's just
Mm-hmm.
about being acknowledged. Because for men, right, you know, Smex isn't always about just, oh, this is my raw instinct. It's about connection with your partner. So,
No,
like,
I agree. I think that men kind of contradict themselves. They tell each other, "Oh, pull yourself up by your bootstraps." Like, don't be a little bitch. And then they turn around and say, like, you know, I stand with you, brother, or this and that. Like, honestly, I see men kind of mean to each other. I was going to address the survey. The institution was National Opinion Research Center and the University of Chicago, years from 1972 to present. Um, they pool about 2 to 3,000 adults per survey. And let's see, total participants across the decades is over 65,000. And so it essentially showed that, okay, so about 60 to 70% of single women report sexual activity in the past year, and 30 to 40% report no. Oh yeah, okay, that's not important. Okay, sorry. Let me start at the beginning. So men, it shows 55 to 65% of single men report being sexually active in the past year. For women, it's 60 to 70% of single women report sexual activity in the past year. Single men in the past month, so having like monthly sex, right? It's 40 to 50% versus women is 45 to 55%, at least once per month. So that's telling me, because they're making it sound like women are only going after the top 20%. If that was the case, why is it like 50% are having sex on a monthly basis? You know what I mean? So something's not right there. They're definitely exaggerating because I think the stats is like 60 something percent of men reproduce. What percent of men marry?
It sounds like those women are settling.
Well, okay, so that brings me to the whole beauty standards. We'll address that next time, but I do want to address this. Okay, so it says about 75 to 80% of US men eventually marry at least once in their lifetime. How is that the top 20%? How is, like, make it make sense? You know what I mean? Like, the thing is they're exaggerating, and this is my frustration. My background is in biotechnology, right? So when it comes to data, I like geek out on data. I get so excited. I really love analyzing data, and where I tested the highest, whenever I did like a whole battery of tests and like did like my IQ and all of that stuff, it was like 2 days worth of testing. Where I test highest at is pattern recognition. I am very good at recognizing patterns. And what I see is both red pill and feminism doing the exact same tactics. And I don't like that. It's dishonest. And I don't think that either one has to lie, because I think the reality, even if there are more men in society that have held towards their moral foundation, or that traditional foundation, it's still not that much more. It might be 20% more, right? But that's still an issue on both ends. Like, men and women are both the problem. So, and I give this example. Sorry, I had to say all of that before I got to your actual question. But when it comes to women settling, this is what I see a lot. I'll talk to women, and it sounds like they spend their 20s being promiscuous, right? Most women who are more traditional marry in their early to mid 20s. And that's because they are focused on family. I myself got married at 25. I gave up my career in the industry that I was going in because I wanted to be a wife and a mother. That was more important to me. And I was pushed so heavily to go and get my education, even though all I wanted was to be a wife and a mother. I would always be like, well, when I grow up, I want to be a wife and a mother. And they're like, yeah, what else? And I was like, a wife and a mother. And they're like, what else? And I was like, well, I mean, I guess maybe a scientist, like that'd be kind of cool. Or a farmer. That was the other thing that I said, which is funny because I have a degree in biotechnology and now I have a farm and I still homeschool. But anyways, they push it so heavily on women, but these women waste their youth, which is predominantly what men are looking for, because statistically speaking, women are more fertile in their younger adult years, and it gets harder for them to get pregnant when they get older. And for men, when they get older, their sperm, the DNA actually starts to deteriorate and have mutations in it. So they're not exempt from the whole aging thing. But men do have a little bit more time than women, and they do seek out younger women. They want a woman who is going to be able to give them a healthy legacy. They want, I mean, everyone thinks that youth is beautiful. Like, and I'm not talking underage. I'm talking like above like 18, right? And then men also talk about how women that are younger tend to have less trauma. That's true. I myself have quite a bit of trauma, and I know that I'm not easy to deal with, and that's just, it is what it is, you know? And then women who are younger tend to have less time to sleep around. Men don't want women who have been passed around, and I completely understand that. So they want these women who are younger, but women are being heavily encouraged to go to college. College is a cesspool. When I went off to a college and stayed in a dorm, the women were like bringing men in and out, and they would like, and here's the thing, I had condoms. I never used any of them, but they would knock on my door. Do you have a condom? And I'm like, at least if you're going to be sexually active, like at least at the bare minimum, be prepared. And like the fact that the man didn't have a condom, like, why would you even sleep with a man? Like,
Oh, and you want to know the worst part is?
disgusting.
All of these women who did these things, they're all married now, right?
Yep, they are. So, okay, yeah, sorry, I got distracted. You know, I'm like squirrel. So these women spend their youth wasting it by partying, sleeping around, focusing on their career. And then by the time they hit 30, they're like, okay, now I'm ready to settle down. And they notice that the men, because the top 20% of men do prefer younger women, typically, right? So they're noticing that the type of men that they're wanting aren't giving them the same attention. So then they settle for a man that they don't really respect, but they're like, shit, my clock's ticking. This guy likes me. Screw it, I'll do it. But then she ends up resenting him because she never really liked him. She settled because she wasted her time like the grasshopper did with the story of the grasshopper and the ant. Wasted time. She's like, I just got to get in where I fit in. And then 10 years down the line, divorce, takes half a shit, because typically the man earns more than the woman. So when they split everything 50-50, it's not really 50-50. And this is why I've said before that I think whoever's initiating the no-fault divorce should leave the marriage with nothing. You can only have what you brought in, because whatever was built for the family was built for the family, not for you to take away. If you want to leave the family, you want to destroy the family, then go and do it. You don't get custody of the kids. You don't, get half of the stuff, because it's not fair to men that women are going to find their happiness. If you wanted to do that, don't get married. That simple. If you don't take marriage as a serious commitment, then don't do it. It's not rocket science. It's like a checklist that they have. Oh, I need to have the wedding for Instagram instead of doing it to be a wife, and understanding that we are trying to mirror God's relationship with us in our marriage. And it is hard to do. It is not an easy task. But on the men's side, I noticed that men are way overexposed to women. So they notice that when they're not getting the women that they find most attractive, then they'll settle for a woman who's a little less attractive. And men's average for what they think is average has actually gone up. So just because they settle does not mean that that's what they find attractive. They're still settling. And the women that they don't find as attractive, from what I've seen, is they don't treat them as well. Because the women who are attractive can literally dog these men out and do whatever they want. They will marry these women despite them having a high body count, despite them not being submissive, despite all of these things, having debt, being unruly, all of these things, wanting girls' weekends out, they'll still marry these women because they're attractive, and those are the same women who are taking half their shit and leaving. So when they do settle for a woman who is less attractive, they then make her pay for the previous women's mistakes. And the women who are less attractive, they don't get the flowers. They don't get the princess treatment. They don't get all of the things that man gave to the woman who didn't deserve him. And the same goes for women. Women do the same exact thing. And I can objectively look at both sides and see it happening. And I don't understand why men and women can't see this.
Hey, Athena, you want to see the chat?
Oh, the grasshopper and the ant. Yeah, so the grasshopper spent all summer not preparing for winter and just, being lazy, hanging out, doing whatever. And the ants worked really, really hard, storing food for the winter because they knew winter was coming. Well, when winter comes, well, there's two endings. There's the childhood one where the ants are like, okay, grasshopper, did you learn your lesson? You should have saved up for the winter. Come and stay with us in our ant mound and we'll share food with you. And then there's the reality. The ants are like, oh, we get to eat you too. Or the grasshopper just like, unalives because he didn't prepare. And that's just how it is. The wages of sin is death. So a lot of people think that God punishes people. It's not that God punishes people. He says, I will shield you. I will show you mercy. I will do all of these things, show grace and all of that. But you have to walk along this path because he created this universe that has laws that he created. And he said, if you want to be successful, this is what you need to do. I'm not going to force you to do that. If you don't do that, these are the consequences that end up happening. It's not that God's like, oh, I'm going to harm you. Not saying that he can't. I mean, with Sodom and Gomorrah, absolutely he did. But for the most part, if we're talking like individually, like on a micro level instead of like macro level, like he just lets people make their own decisions and decide if they want to live in his mercy and grace and do what's right and reap the benefits of that.
Yep. The story of the ant and the grasshopper, it's actually, it's actually an allegory for colonialism between the Native Americans and the settlers who came here.
Really? I didn't know that.
No, I just made that up.
Oh, you're so annoying. And here I am. I'm like, oh, he wouldn't lie to me. Okay, that was another statistic. Not only did it show that men lie more than women, that they're pretty proud of it. And the study, and I'll link it in there. I think I want to address it next time. But essentially, these men were like very proud of their ability to lie. And they were so like open and honest about it. And I'm like, ugh.
Well, there's a difference between lying and joking. I was kidding.
Oh, I know. I was teasing you. No, I wasn't saying you're like actually like lying. I was just, it was a little transition with a little teasing. But
you're what? You're transgender? What?
Transitioning the subject. No, I'm not a transformer.
Robots in disguise.
Well, I think we covered a lot. I need to add all the links in the description, and I will go through and do that probably next weekend is when I'm going to do it. I have so much work, and I'm not complaining. It is such a blessing. Like winter is like kind of famine, and it's like scraping by until spring hits, and then it's like boom, so much work. So I just started into the cleaning industry again, and yeah.
Yeah. So if you go to Motel 6 and your towels aren't folded neatly in your bathroom, you have Athena to blame for that.
No, I don't do hotels. I don't think I could do hotels. I don't think there's money in doing hotels either. Um, I don't know. They mostly pay their workers like hourly. And I think they pay them like $15, $20 an hour. I'm like, oh dear God. Um, like my
More than
base levels, I earn average $50 to $60 an hour cleaning houses. When I do deep cleans and stuff like that, it could be 80 to 120 an hour, depending on the job. So, yeah. It's hard work, but it's rewarding work, and I get to stay home with my son because I earn more. And I was actually addressing this. This is the shit that pisses me off. There's this one particular Instagram page, and they shared a clip of mine when I went on the No Fugazi, and I was saying that whoever's filing no fault divorce should leave the marriage with whatever it is that they came with, but anything that they built together, they should leave with nothing, that they shouldn't get custody of the kids, because what was built for the family was for the family. But in the same breath, I was still like, but also if it is a fault divorce due to infidelity, or I would say sexual immorality. And I think, this is my opinion, I think withholding from a man should be considered sexual immorality. It's sexual manipulation.
abuse.
Yeah, it is sexual abuse. I agree with that. So, abuse of any kind, sexual immorality, and extreme rug use. Those are the only grounds for divorce that I can see. Oh, like real abuse. Did I already say that one?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Yeah. So those are the only reasons I see for divorce. And I think that the victim is the one that should have custody of the kids, have the house and everything. And the perpetrator, they're the ones that should have to leave. So I think whoever's at fault is the one that should leave, and leave everything that they built for the family, for the family. They want to choose to not be a part of the family, then don't be a part of the family. But you're not going to tear down the family with us. I think the laws need to be structured to protect the family. Yeah, we can't force people to stay in there, but we could at least protect the family and the family's resources, and not allow people to run from accountability and not do the right thing. And so this particular man something Instagram page or whatever, they shared one of my clips, and I was like, oh, thank you for sharing my clip. And it's funny because a lot of men will be like, oh yeah, she's super based, and then as soon as I say something that holds men accountable, all of a sudden I'm a feminist, I'm a fat biatch, I'm all sorts of things. And I'm
Has
like,
anyone ever
okay.
stitched one of your videos and said those things?
Not those videos.
You know what stitching is, right?
Yeah, most people stitch my content that's like more red pill leaning, not the other way around. Although there was the one where I said that a man who has to lie to a woman to gain access to her is not a player, he's a predator. That video got stitched by multiple creators. And it was funny because they got their panties in a bunch. And then I did another video, and I was like, well, the same goes for women who have to lie in order to gain access to a man. And one of the things that men complain about is every time they address an issue with women, women immediately say, oh, but men do XYZ. But anytime I address an issue with men, men are like, well, women do blah, blah, whatever. And I'm like, you're doing the same thing, bro. Like, I see it on both sides, and I'm going to call it out every time I see it. But I had made a few comments on there, and I had a lot of people like scrutinizing me and, saying all sorts of stuff. And I don't really care what they say, but I'm like, how can you not see this? Like, how can you not be logical? How can you be so emotional as a man? I mean, honestly, like, I feel like I take a very objective look at things, and I'm a woman. And so when I see men respond so emotionally when I'm being very respectful, it doesn't make sense to me. And then the other thing was about women. Oh, what was it? Here, I'm going to pull it up right quick.
Okay, I have something to say when you're done with that.
No, go ahead.
Well, it should be when you're done because it's going to derail the conversation.
Oh, okay.
Lesbian relationships.
You couldn't put two neurotic people together.
No, that's why lesbian relationships
Can
don't
you hear it?
last.
You can hear it, we can't see it.
About 70-75% of divorces are initiated by women. And the simplest explanation for that is that on average, the most unhappy person in the relationship is going to be the woman. Well, why? Well, because on average, she has higher levels of negative emotion. That doesn't necessarily mean that negative emotion doesn't reflect problems in the relationship.
Yeah.
But she's going to be more sensitive to that. Well, so if you put two women together, well, what do you think happens?
You couldn't put two neurotic people together.
No,
that's why. So my response, I do agree with Jordan Peterson here. I think he's absolutely brilliant. But I said women naturally tend to be more emotional, but add modern society making them work like men and not taking breaks that align with their cycles, just like I addressed earlier, like they always have historically, and you get extremely emotional women. I tell women to flee the workforce, work for yourself. I have a degree in biotechnology and I clean homes so I can stay home and homeschool my son. Essentially, I'm saying I gave up my career instead of sacrificing my child and putting him in public school so I can chase some dream. I decided, you know what, I'd rather scrub toilets because then I get more time with him because he didn't choose to be in this world and he's my responsibility. And so a lot of women have this like Disney princess, like I'm the main character thing, and they can't sacrifice for their family. And it's very frustrating because these children did not decide to be here. And let me read the rest of this. I said, it's so much better than going to a 9-to-5. You pace yourself, you have more time to be home, you're still earning money because a lot of families need the extra income. I'm not saying women can't work. I'm not saying, oh, he needs to provide and I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to stay at home. It's wonderful to stay at home, but if you can bring in money, like that's a blessing to your family. The Proverbs 31 woman, she was an entrepreneur, but it didn't take away from her family because her family was the center. She did entrepreneurship that allowed her to still embrace her family and not have to sacrifice her family in order to gain that. So as you pace yourself and you're still earning money, women can contribute financially without sacrificing their family, but it might not be glamorous. You can bake, clean homes, craft jewelry, do at-home daycare, meal prep, etc. Then you are less emotional and better. You're a better wife, a better mother because you're not completely drained. You can pace yourself. You don't have to stretch yourself so thin competing with men who have a 24-hour hormonal cycle. That's why they're consistent. This is why I encourage women to be entrepreneurs and to structure their business around their family, because the family should be the center. But yeah, I got a lot of pushback from men for that comment. They're like, oh, look, men, we got one of those in here. And I'm like, isn't this exactly what Red Pill is teaching? Because a lot of men in the Red Pill say, oh, well, we can't afford a one-person income or household. And I'm like, okay, well, there's nothing wrong with a woman working. She may not be able to work as much as the man, but she could still work and prioritize her family too. Again, the Proverbs 31 woman was an entrepreneur. If we had a communal society, we would be able to achieve these things, especially if it was multiple families getting a larger property so that they only have to pay one mortgage. Families would thrive. People would be able to actually make a difference, but people aren't doing that because society is very individualistic. I'm the main character. I'm going to do what's best for me. I'm not going to trust anybody. The reality is we all need each other, men and women and society. Like, we absolutely need each other, and people don't want to rely on others because they've been hurt so much. So they think, I'll just do it myself. But that's why people get nowhere. I land my plane. I always say I rest my plane, and then people make fun of me because they're like, Athena, you land your plane. I'm like, I rest my plane. I think my plane deserves rest.
Yeah, thank God it's not 2001 and the plane actually landed.
Ay, Dios mío.
And anyway, when it comes to women in the workforce, I feel like, we should just roll out the red carpet for them and let them come inside. Believe it or not, the carpet actually used to be white, but, women working.
What?
What?
Okay, I think is that what you were wanting to say?
No.
Okay.
No, that's not what I want. No, I thought of that. I'm like, oh my God, that's genius. Especially like with that one woman we met who talked about free bleeding. It just,
Oh God, she was disgusting.
So I want this in the public eye, in a sense, like so you can like bring this. I'm not sure if this is Red Pill or Red Pill has spoken about this, but I know that you and I have.
Mhm.
Do you remember you had done a live about, basically that young women should not ride horses? And you know what that is. Okay, so I don't know if
Okay.
how does one's father or someone like address that to his daughter without sounding creepy?
Well, I don't think it's creepy. I think it's only creepy because, and I'm going to address this quickly, and then I have to go because I do have a house to clean tomorrow. I think society has normalized sexual activities or sexual, not necessarily activity, but exposing children to over-sexualized content so young, and essentially push the whole sexual revolution. And that, young teens are even being sexually active, that the idea of preserving it seems perverted to them for some reason. And this is why the Bible says what is good will be seen as evil, what is evil will be seen as good. These people have no foundation. And the foundation comes from the Bible. So if you look at the Federal Reserves, when they're teaching people to spot a real bill, they study the real bills so well that when a counterfeit comes along, they're able to recognize that it's not a real bill. They don't study the counterfeit. And so essentially, people who are not in the Word of God, they've not been taught the Word of God. They don't even know what's real and what's not. This is why there's so much confusion, and Satan is the ruler of confusion. And this is why the Bible says,
Wait, Athena?
what's good is
Before you
will be.
go too far, can you give the context? Because you didn't address what it was. What I had.
So you're talking about asking or preserving the hymen, essentially. So not putting young girls in certain sports or situations where it would break their hymen, whether it's riding a bike, riding a horse, gymnastics, etc. So they no longer preserve that for men, and men desiring that has now been turned into something bad according to feminism, when I think it's a natural desire for men to want to conquer, and not in a negative way. I mean, he has every, desire to keep her. That's his prize. I mean, that's historically women were like the prize. Um,
Right. Something I wanted to say specifically about that. Sorry
I need
for
to go to
both.
bed.
Yeah, I'll land my plane. I just when it comes to that, right? The women, if a man says that, it's okay for you to say something like that, right? But if a man were to say that, the man would be called a P3DO.
Yeah, they think it well, and maybe women should be more vocal about it. Maybe women should step up, because there is that I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm tired. My brain has like stopped working. Um,
Yeah, the anti-feminists, they should push that movement, not men, because men will
yeah.
just be seen as the bad.
No, I
Um,
agree. I
so
agree.
do do I see a collaboration between you and the Dadvocate on this?
Oh, I don't know. Why? Has the
I
dad
don't
said anything about that?
no.
Oh, well, I have no connection to the Dadvocate. I do like her. I like her content a lot. She calls both men and women out. She's extremely fair. She doesn't seem biased. And so I really enjoy her content. Unlike some others who, I think they kind of pander to men, just like the feminists pander to women. I think we're all adults and we should be treated as such. But I do have to go to bed. Good night, y'all. Thank you for tuning in. If you're rewatching, thank you. Feel free to comment. I will list all of the
That's
guests in the comment or in the description, probably sometime next week, because I have it all in a folder and I need to
and
do
by the
that.
way, guys, like and share, repost. I don't know if that's a thing on YouTube.
I don't know, hype up. I don't even think you can hype mine because I'm not monetized. But yeah, if you could like, comment, share, whatever.
Subscribe. Yeah.
Yeah, subscribe, whatever.
Me and the devil walking side by
Good night, guys.
Good night.